Alright, people, welcome back to Busted Tip Gaming, where we are going to be talking about the news, and we're going to be talking about, well, we're going to be talking about a bunch of things today. Seem to have a little weirdness going on with the background here. I don't know why. Hang on just a second. Wife's trying to reach me. Done with my other stream, and for some reason I used my other name for this, but yes, this is Bare Bones Talk, duh. My wife is paying more attention than I am tonight. So anyway, yeah, let's see what we got going on here, see if I can't fix this little graphics glitch. Excuse me. Blah. Why is that acting up like that? That's so weird. Huh. Oh, it's, you know what it is? It's not a graphics glitch. It's the collar of the cuff on the hand of the guy behind me. Okay, that makes more sense now. All right. God, I'm getting weirded out by my own graphics. That's so odd. So, anywho, yeah, we're going to be doing our news wrap-up tonight. And let's get into that. Pardon the hiccups and coughing. So, yeah, let's take a look first at what's going on here with the push to oust troops from Iraq. So I've been saying that Trump's attack on Soleimani was going to be more likely to lead to conflict in the Middle East, and it's looking like I may be proven right here. Because it's not just Iran that's reacting to us, it's other countries in the Middle East that are kind of PO'd about us dropping a drone strike on Baghdad soil. So let's see. A push led by pro-Iran factions to oust U.S. troops from Iraq following the U.S. airstrike that killed a top Iranian general is gaining momentum, bolstered by a parliament vote calling on the government to remove them. But the path forward is unclear in Iraq's deeply divided terrain, with a resigned prime minister and a raging proxy war between Iran and the U.S. Ending America's 17-year military presence in Iraq is a risky undertaking. So yes, that's a problem because it's going to leave Iraq in a much more turmoil-ridden situation than it was before. Let's see. Iraq was barely starting to recover from a devastating 4-year war against Islamic State. There was a mass uprising against the country's ruling elite on October 1, forcing the prime minister to resign, and there is no replacement for him as yet. A pullout of U.S. troops could cripple the fight against Islamic State militants. That's not good. Which would allow extremists to make a comeback. Militants affiliated with the IS routinely carry out attacks in northern and western Iraq, and Iraqi forces rely on the U.S. to fight back for logistics and weapons. Could also enable Iran to deepen its influence in Iraq, which is not good. So when it talks about Iran being a majority Shiite country, one of the big causes of strife in the Middle East is that Islam is divided into several major factions, Shiites being one kind of Muslim and Sunnis being another. And when the Shiites gain control, they tend to be very punitive toward other branches of Islam. Same with the Sunnis, etc. They take their religious majorities very seriously. And when there's nothing there to put a stop to it, no outside influence to mitigate it, things tend to get bad. Let's see. The United States has made no decision whatsoever to leave Iraq. And that's all interesting and everything, but if the Iraqis say GTFO, what are you going to do? You're going to declare war just so you can keep a few thousand guys there? Although with the United States, being run by Trump, you never know. The Iraqi parliamentary vote Sunday calling for the ouster of 5,200 American troops in Iraq requires Iraqi government approval, but it highlights the sharp deterioration in relations between the U.S. and Iraq. So yeah, it's going to be kind of a nightmare when we pull out of there. But it's probably better for American troops not to be in the line of fire. So I have kind of mixed feelings about all this. Yeah, so that's going to be a problem. What else do we have going on with the Associated Press today? Let's move this over here. Okay. Before we get into this, let's take a look at the oil prices. You can look forward to higher and higher prices at the pump in the near future, thanks to President Trump's ill-advised decision to assassinate a foreign leader, because as soon as you start screwing around in the Middle East and causing conflict over there, it makes oil prices rise. Oil prices rising makes gasoline prices rise. Gasoline prices rising pokes you right in the wallet. So, get ready for that, because it's coming. The global benchmark for crude oil rose above $70 a barrel on Monday for the first time in over 3 months because of jitters over escalating military tension between Iran and the United States. What a shock. Let's see. Yep. The last time it spiked that high was because a Saudi crude oil processing facility was attacked. Basically, as soon as you start hearing about conflict and war and such happening in the oil exporting areas of the world, it drives oil prices up because people expect it'll be harder to get, so they start buying oil futures at higher prices, and that makes gasoline prices go up. So, thanks a lot, President Dumbass, for screwing the entire American citizenry with higher gas prices because, you're trying to start a war to distract people from your impeachment or something? I don't know, but not okay. Not okay. Also, we're starting to see people questioning, very correctly, the legality of that attack. And even people on the political right are starting to say that Trump was bonkers for doing that. Let's take a look at a video of Rand Paul, a Republican, and listen to him suggest how bad an idea this was when talking to Wolf Blitzer.
The president's decision to kill General Soleimani make Americans safer or less safe?
I think that's a good question, and I think the stated purpose by the administration was that they were going to prevent attacks on Americans. But I think if you ask the question now, is it more or less likely that there'll be attacks on Americans? I think it's much more likely.
And he's right about that. Prior to that assassination, the Iranians may not have loved us, but they weren't immediately vowing massive strikes against American interests, which they now are because they're all screeching for revenge for this attack.
The replacement for Soleimani is basically a clone, somebody who is a hardliner who's worked with Soleimani for 20 some odd years. And so while Soleimani may have been plotting attacks, and probably was, it's now a certainty that there will be attacks in revenge for his killing.
So, out with the old boss, in with the new boss, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Okay? The guy they've replaced Soleimani with, apparently just as bad as Soleimani.
The other unintended consequence here is you saw the chanting in the streets of Tehran. This has emboldened the hardliners. Iran is like any other country. There's a mixture of opinion. There are hardliners that never want to talk to America at all, death to America, but there are moderates and younger people who do like the West and who would talk to us. I think what this does is it lessens the voices of anybody that wants moderation or diplomacy, and even the...
So, yeah, like any other country, as Rand Paul here points out, and I don't even like Rand Paul, but he's very much on point here. There are differing opinions among the public there and among the leadership there, and some people would be willing to talk to America and some people wouldn't. But every time you hurt that country with military force, the hardliners get to go, see, we told you America's evil, we shouldn't talk to them, we shouldn't listen to them, screw America. And by attacking them, he simply, Trump just handed the hardliners a better foothold in that country than they had before.
Iranians will not be able to approach us on diplomacy until there's revenge, until there's adequate revenge to satiate the people who want some kind of revenge. And this is sad. I mean, the death of Soleimani, I think, is the death of diplomacy with Iran. I don't see an off-ramp. I don't see a way out of this.
And keep in mind, this is coming from a Republican who just said he doesn't see a way out of this. And I said in our last stream that Trump's attack on Soleimani, regardless of what the White House says or claims about it, is a move that is essentially, it couldn't possibly be better designed to trigger a war with Iran if, It's about as obvious a move to do that as you can get. You don't. This is kind of like if the Iranians had just thrown a missile through Mike Pence's window and killed him without being in a state of war from us. It would have been an assassination of a major American political leader, which is exactly what Soleimani was. He wasn't just a military guy. Um, and when even Republicans are starting to say we don't see a way out here, it kind of highlights just what a bonehead move Trump made there.
So did the president make a major mistake?
I think that he got bad advice. I think that basically, even though he let John Bolton go, this is John Bolton. John Bolton's clapping and jumping up and down and rubbing his hands together because this is what he wanted, to take a dramatic action to kill one of their main leaders. But the thing is it's going to have unintended consequences. And really, it's part of this whole recipe. The administration, mainly at John Bolton's behest, tore up the Iran agreement, placed a significant and severe embargo on Iran, and then killed one of their major generals. Nobody in the...
So remember, we were saying last time that this kind of mirrors the political maneuvering and economic maneuvering that made Japan want to attack Pearl Harbor in 1941. When you start destroying the country's ability to export oil, it's an economic attack against them, and it devastates their national economy, which impoverishes everybody. And then you start killing their leaders when you're not even at war with them. This is so a roadmap to war.
The right mind would actually think that that would lead to negotiation. So when Secretary of State Pompeo is out there saying, well, maximum pressure, our goal is to get them back to the negotiating table. No naive child would believe that. You would have to be brain dead to believe that we tear up the agreement, we put an embargo on you, and we kill your major general, and they're just going to crawl back to the table and say, what do you want, America? I mean, military escalation.
Keep in mind, he just called the Trump administration brain dead for thinking that this would lead to anything but a collapse of the peace process.
Is really what you would predict with this. I think most people who are thinking about this would have predicted that everything they've done with regard to Iran is leading now to this military escalation. And I want to be careful that nothing justifies their military action, but it is predictable given what path we've chosen.
So, yep, that's what we're looking at here. Welcome to World War Trump. It's bad, and it's going to get worse. But now let's take a look at some real awful stuff happening around the world here. So we've got a Kenyan pastor fatally stabbed his wife in church and then killed himself at the pulpit, according to police. Proving once again that just because you're a minister doesn't make you a saint. This guy and his wife owned a church together, and apparently it was very profitable. And they were arguing about who was the primary owner of it, so apparently the pastor, the guy in this marriage, decided that the way to settle it was to wait until the middle of a service, stab his wife 3 times, and then stab himself a few times in the chest, and then slit his own throat at the pulpit, because of this argument. And I'm sitting there thinking, what kind of bonkers crap is that? But, yep, you heard it right. That's exactly what happened. He walked up to his wife while the church was praying, as if he wanted to whisper something to her. Then he took one of the knives and stabbed his wife 2 times, not 3. He believed she was dead, then he stabbed himself 3 times and slit his own throat. The pastor died instantly from his stab wounds, and the wife died at a local hospital a few hours later. The couple had been engaged in a long-running feud over the ownership and leadership of the church. In 2017, the guy was detained by police after his wife alleged he planned to kill her. Apparently, she wasn't wrong, He was released the following day after they found the accusations untrue. Wrong. He was very much in thinking of killing her. The couple, which had 4 children, had lived apart since the dispute began 2 years ago. She had been trying to stay away from the husband since the dispute over the ownership of the church. They had even reported the matter to church leaders, but were unable to resolve the dispute. The husband left a 17-page suicide note in which he accused his wife of changing ownership of the church, which he said the couple founded, to her name alone. Well, okay. I guess his thought was if he couldn't have it, nobody could, and killed himself and his wife. That's awful. And now moving on to overreactions and absolute dick moves. Kids aged 12 and 13 shot by driver after throwing snowballs at passing cars. Because of course the driver shot at them. Because of course in America, if somebody throws a snowball in an inappropriate way, you don't yell at them, you just shoot the kids. 2 children ages 12 and 13 were shot after throwing snowballs at passing cars in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The pair was hurling snowballs at passing cars with a group of children on Saturday evening. One of the snowballs struck a white Toyota, and the driver of the car shot at the children. Police found the 12-year-old girl and the 13-year-old boy minutes apart. Both of their injuries were non-life-threatening, thankfully. Neither one of them died. Both are being treated at a local hospital. Milwaukee police asked tipsters with information about the suspect or incident to contact the police department. If you live in that part of the world and you're watching and you know anything about that, call the cops. That's horrible. I mean, yes, throwing snowballs at passing cars is kind of a jerk thing to do, but you don't shoot children for that. Okay? Not okay, people. And this is yet another reason why I think a lot of Americans cannot be trusted with guns. Obviously, there's a serious lack of judgment among people if anybody would even consider whipping out their gun and firing on children for the act of throwing a snowball at a car. Moving on to slightly less lethal but definitely more disgusting jerk moves, we have someone released bed bugs in a Pennsylvania Walmart, and now police are investigating. A Walmart in Pennsylvania is facing a bedbug infestation after someone released the parasitic insects in a men's changing room. A manager at the store in Edinburgh found a closed pill bottle with live bugs crawling inside and reported it to authorities. The bottle was found inside a boy's jacket, which was for sale. We take it seriously and are looking into it. We're fully cooperating with law enforcement in their investigation, says the Walmart spokesperson. On Friday, health safety company Ecolab confirmed that the insects were bed bugs. They also reported seeing bed bugs crawling around the men's changing rooms the same day. Yikes. Walmart employee found a second closed pill bottle containing dead bed bugs in the men's department. A third-party pest management service visited the store and we're working with them to assess next steps. In the meantime, we've blocked off the impacted area. Good luck with that, buddy. You can't exactly expect those bugs to stay contained easily. That whole store is probably going to have to be bug-bombed before it's going to be safe, and you're probably going to have to burn most of that stock. You know, because once you've sprayed bug-killing chemicals all over the property to kill the bed bugs, nothing that's been touched by that is safe for human contact. And any clothes that you buy there are going to A, either have bed bugs in them, or B, have bed bug killing chemicals in them, neither one of which is great. So that store is pretty much screwed. Bed bugs are small, flat, parasitic insects that survive by feeding off the blood of people and animals as they sleep. They do not spread disease, but can leave itchy bite marks, which may lead to an allergic reaction. While extremely small, they can live for months without feeding. So if anybody bought something at that store within a few days of this attack, they should probably get rid of it and have their house checked by a pest control service. Because apparently these things can lie dormant for months, even if they don't get to feed on you, and just wait for the right opportunity to start chowing down on your snoozing self. Bedbug infestations are very expensive to fight. Professional extermination of bedbugs typically costs $200 to $1,500 per room and often fails. Black. Yikes. That is awful. That is so bad. So let's talk a little more about guns for a minute. I have been telling people who come to either one of my streams for a very long time, that if they are gun enthusiasts, that it is in their best interest to participate in the process of reducing gun violence in this country, even if that means compromising on some things like voting for universal background checks, voting for requirements to safely store weapons, that kind of thing. Because if they don't, and they make it clear to the political left, or to any political group that cares more about the lives of kids than having the biggest pistol that they can buy, that once those groups have power, they are going to realize that no cooperation from the political right wing is coming, and they will ramrod through whatever changes they want while they have the chance. And here it is happening. Sweeping change is expected as Virginia Democrats take control. Democrats in Virginia are looking to advance a history-making agenda when the General Assembly convenes Wednesday that could change how Virginians vote, the type of guns they can buy, and the crimes for which they can be jailed. Okay? Quick action is expected on a number of high-profile issues that Republicans have thwarted for years. Again, if you don't participate in the solution when the other side has power, they will simply accept that you don't intend to help, and they will take charge when they get the chance. In what could be one of the most sweeping legislative sessions in decades. This is a new year in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and a lot of these things that we've been talking about for years now are going to become a reality, Governor Ralph Northam said on Friday in announcing plans for a major overhaul of the state's criminal justice system that includes decriminalizing marijuana. Let's see. Let's take a look. Getting rid of holidays that celebrate Confederates. Good. Screw the Confederacy. Prohibiting discrimination against members of the LGBT community, because again, the right wing has prevented any kind of fair treatment of the LGBT community. Ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. This is amazing. The Equal Rights Amendment was submitted to the states by Congress in the early 1970s, and Virginia has refused to accept it. So that's literally close to 50 years they've been saying we're not going to adopt the Equal Rights Amendment, excuse me. Virginia would be the 38th to ratify it. Let's see. Yeah, voter dislike for President Trump in suburban areas in particular has helped dramatically reshape their state government. They won back control of both chambers, and now, along with the governor, have an opportunity to pass priorities in a number of areas that Republicans have blocked. And this is exactly what I tried to warn you guys about. If you got to keep in mind that, the government has a checks and balances system, but every now and then, just like what happened when Trump first came to office, one party controls all of it. And the minute that happens, when it's the Democrats, they're going to say, screw you guys, you've been dicks about this for decades, and now that we're in charge, we're doing all of it, and you can't stop us, so go fuck yourselves, right? And that's what's happening. And you guys made your own bed by not being willing to participate in this stuff, not being willing to give equal rights to people, not being willing to, adopt the Equal Rights Amendment, not being willing to end discrimination based on sex, and not being willing to participate in reducing the number of slaughtered kids because of gun violence. Let's see. Yada, 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 yada. The Republicans are trying to fight against this, but they're not going to succeed. Anyone who thinks the pendulum can't swing back just as quickly isn't paying attention. That's true, but again, it's generally very rare for one party to control all the segments of a state or federal government level. The Democrats might win. They might lose, for example, the governorship, or they might lose one of the houses of the state legislature. But as long as they control at least one, they can stop these changes that they're about to implement from being repealed for a very, very, very long time. And good, Likely the most prominent debate will be on gun control. Democrats want to mandate universal background checks. Good. Ban assault weapons and pass a red flag law. Good. To allow temporary removal of guns from someone who is deemed to be dangerous to themselves or others. Why anybody would object to things like universal background checks or temporarily removing guns from people who are demonstrably dangerous, I don't know why anybody would care. But gun fans are often fucking bonkers, so they object. Guns became a major issue in last year's legislative elections after a gunman killed a dozen people in Virginia Beach in May. What a shock. When people get slaughtered close to home, it sort of opens your eyes. Ahead of the session, gun rights groups have pledged stiff defiance. Fuck them. If they defy it, they're going to be lawbreakers and they should go to jail. The Virginia Citizens Defense League, a prominent pro-gun group, said it plans to have enough citizens armed with handguns to take over a modern mid-sized country at its annual lobby day, which sounds to me like they're planning insurrection, so they should be rounded up and arrested and thrown into a giant prison, because they seem to not care when, people seeking asylum are thrown in prison camps, so fuck them, throw them right in too. Other flashpoints this session could be between liberal and moderate Democrats, particularly on business-related issues like Virginia's status as a, quote, right-to-work, unquote, state that blocks mandatory union fees in workplaces and efforts to put new restrictions on the short-term high-interest loan industry and Dominion Energy. Anybody who thinks right to work means you actually have a right to work doesn't understand what those laws mean. Right to work is code for we're going to union bust for you. And it is completely anti-union. It is anti-worker. It is bad for the citizens of that state. No state should be a quote-unquote right-to-work state, because all it means is that state has decided to fuck the citizens over in favor of supporting large businesses' ability to union bust. And anybody who doesn't think that payday loans need to be reined in is bonkers. They don't understand how predatory those things are. And, anybody who thinks having an energy monopoly is a good thing is likewise bonkers. Lawmakers are likely to approve raising the state's minimum wage to $15 an hour from $7.25 an hour, but the details about possible exemptions and how fast to implement the new wage floor are also set for debate. I would love to see that state have a $15 minimum wage. I could do a whole show, and probably will do a whole show sometime in the future, about the importance of living wages and why they will work, and why anybody who says that they will be a problem doesn't understand what the hell they're talking about. So, yeah. When it comes to the gun thing, though, I told you guys, I told you, as soon as you guys make it clear that you will never agree to be part of the solution, the opposite side of the fence is going to assume you mean it, and they're going to screw you over the minute they get the chance, because you've left them no other way to save lives other than to force the issue when they have the opportunity. So, if you can't figure that one out, if you're not smart enough to understand that if you don't want to put the lives of children ahead of your interest in your gun collection, that you don't have a moral leg to stand on, and the minute a more ethical group has control, they will force the issue, then you're too stupid to be trusted with either a vote or a gun, and you deserve what you get. I have no sympathy for anybody who loses their guns in such a situation, because you've had decades of chances to pull your heads out of your assholes and actually be part of the solution, and you friggin' refuse to do it. So deal with it. Just deal with it, because it's happening. It's happening, and if anybody in that state objects, they're breaking the law, and they can go to prison as far as I care. So to heck with them. Oh, okay. So what else is going on in the news today? Let's take a look at the Associated Press main site. We already talked about that. We already talked about that. We already talked about that. This is interesting. Let's see. A team of lawyers filed a lawsuit Monday in federal court in Washington, D.C., seeking to establish the nation's capital as a venue for men across the U.S. to sue the Boy Scouts of America for allegedly failing to protect them from long-ago sex abuse at the hands of scoutmasters and other leaders. So apparently the Boy Scouts of America has a problem similar to the Catholic Church, which is not surprising, since the Boy Scouts of America is actually a religious organization, not a secular one, and it has the same problem the Catholic Church does. Namely, it craps on anything like gender equality and gay people and all this other kind of stuff, but also puts men without any real serious vetting in positions of authority over groups of young men and boys who they have the ability to, to victimize with no oversight. The 8 plaintiffs in the potentially groundbreaking lawsuit live in states where the statute of limitations would prevent them from suing based on claims of sex abuse that occurred long ago. The plaintiffs' lawyers contend that the federal court in Washington is an appropriate venue because the Boy Scouts were incorporated there in 1910 and obtained a congressional charter in 1916. Along with several states, including New York, New Jersey, and California, the District of Columbia eased its statute of limitations in 2019 to accommodate claims like those in this new lawsuit. The Boy Scouts refused to comment. It gave previous apologies to, quote, anyone who was harmed during their time in scouting, unquote. We believe victims, we support them, we pay for counseling by a provider of their choice, and we encourage them to come forward, unquote, the BSA said. Good for them. Maybe you should have been better about vetting your scoutmasters and had more oversight. Maybe you shouldn't have been such anti-gay bigots. Maybe you should have done a lot of stuff differently. But it looks like you're about to get clubbed over the head, and deservedly so, Boy Scouts of America. The lawyers handling the lawsuit are affiliated with Abused in Scouting, a nationwide legal team that is signing up hundreds of clients across the U.S. who seek to file sex abuse claims against the BSA, which only goes to show you that the problem is pervasive and systemic within the Boy Scouts of America. The lawsuit contends the BSA has known since its early years that it attracted pedophiles into its ranks of adult leaders, yet avoided public acknowledgement of the dangers for decades, even as it kept secret files of men known or suspected of committing sex abuse. Holy crap. Holy crap, people. Never once in 130 years of reporting to Congress has the BSA disclosed the fact that its programs were and are magnets to tens of thousands of pedophiles, the lawsuit says. Instead, the BSA's reports to the nation miscast the organization as a bastion of moral authority. Because of course they say that. For the same reason the Catholic Church says it. They want to claim that they're the good guys, that they're moral leaders. But guess what? Doesn't look that way. Wow. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Yada, 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 yada. The reason they're saying they're submitting the case in this form is that, quote, if you were raped in California as opposed to Texas, you have a potential avenue for some measure of justice, but it shouldn't depend on the vagaries of geography. The Boy Scouts are a national organization. It cannot be just based on the luck of the draw that some of these men are completely shut out of the courts and some are not. Good point. One of the plaintiffs, who was identified in the complaint as a John Doe but disclosed his identity to the Associated Press and agreed to speak with them, is a 39-year-old Navy officer who says he was abused by an assistant scout leader in Lake Dallas, Texas, starting in 1991 when he was 11 and continuing for 5 years. 5 years. He said that after years of enduring anxiety, shame, and depression, he felt relieved to be part of litigation that could benefit abuse victims across the U.S. Quote, the abuse occurs once you're isolated from the rest of the group and you stay in that isolation for years, unquote. Jesus. This is awful. Let's see. The BSA has been entangled for years in costly litigation, with men accusing scout leaders of abusing them as children. Hundreds of new lawsuits now loom after several states enacted laws making it easier for victims of long ago abuse to seek damages. The group says it's exploring, quote, all options available, unquote, to maintain its programs and pay fair compensation to victims who were abused as scouts. The BSA has not ruled out the possibility of filing for bankruptcy. As unfortunate as that would be, like I said years ago about the Catholic Church, if your organization has such an ingrained and systemic problem with child rape that you can't stop it, it's time to disband that organization and, if necessary, if it's desirable to do so, reform it with better controls in place. Let's see. It's designated its national properties as collateral to help meet financial needs, including increased insurance costs. The Mormons, for decades largest sponsor of Boy Scout troops, is pulling more than 400,000 young people out of the BSA and moving them into a new global program of its own. The move is expected to reduce the BSA's youth membership from about 2.2 million to about 1.8 million, the first time since World War II era that the figure will fall below 2 million. At the group's peak in 1970s, more than 4 million boys were scouts. So, good. You know, if they're about to get clobbered for the abuses these guys have suffered, then they deserve it. You know, you don't just get to do this to people and get away with it. It's not okay. There's no excuse ever for this kind of action. None. None, 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 none. So yeah, it's been a hell of a day for crap news. Just awful. Awful, awful stuff today. So, wow. Oh, okay. Breathe, breathe. Okay. Got to get my composure. These kinds of news stories are very, unfortunate and stressful. They're important, but it doesn't make them pleasant. So, black on all of that. All right, let's hop on over to the Associated Press main page again. Yada, 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 yada. CES Gadget Show says surveillance is in and in a big way. Let's take a look at that. Let's see. So the CES Gadget Show seemed to focus a lot on new toys for monitoring, watching, listening, etc. They had smart home and smart city showrooms at the Las Vegas Consumer Tech Conference. These are devices that see, hear, and track the people they encounter. Some of them also analyze their looks and behavior. The technology on display includes eyelid tracking car dashboard cameras to prevent distracted driving and, quote, rapid DNA, unquote, kits for identifying a person from a cheek swab. Let's see. These products could very well be powerful spying tools, not least of which because there are cameras and microphones all over the place, and if you can gain access to them, you can watch and listen in on just about anybody. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, or EFF, is a watchdog group that keeps track of some of these things. Many, many horrible stories have come out of consumer electronics, said Cindy Cohn, executive director of the EFF, who was speaking on a CES panel about the future of internet-connected devices. It's often about hyping the next thing you can buy and not considering the trade-offs, which is always a problem. A caveat emptor, let the buyer beware, right? Yada, yada, yada. What do we got here? A lot of the stuff that's there may be useful to law enforcement, not to mention prying employers or heavy-handed governments. Black. Marcus Yang, CEO of camera startup Amarillo, said he's had a difficult time persuading customers to pay more for safeguards such as faster processors to enable end-to-end encryption when an array of cheaper, less secure options are available. CES attendees want to see technology and something fresh. They're only interested in looking at your cameras and what kind of features they have. And welcome, Kanye West 2020. Welcome and good to have you. Having an interesting time tonight. The stories today have mainly been real downers. But, as I said, stuff is important and people need to, get the short version with a little analysis of what's going on. Right now, we're taking a look at the CES Tech Show, and bonkers how focused it was on surveilling everything and everyone. Let's see. Yang said he's hopeful that something is changing this year after a series of privacy scandals and security breaches has brought attention to the dangers of unfettered surveillance technology And eventually, he said, regulators are likely to step in with security requirements. We can only hope. In an era when big business is pushing for deregulation of everything, I wouldn't hold your breath waiting for the government to step in and say, hey, we have to keep privacy concerns in mind when we're promoting massive use of surveillance technology to the public. It'd be nice if the government was that concerned about the well-being of the citizenry, but again, don't hold your breath. Amazon's security camera division Ring, which has set up a Ring house to show off its home devices, recently had to defend its safety practices following reports of hackers breaking into Ring camera systems and harassing children. Yikes! Holy guaca-freaking-moly. It's also faced criticism from privacy advocates and U.S. lawmakers over its growing partnerships with police. At CES on Monday, the company announced a new quote-unquote control center for camera owners to adjust their privacy settings and opt out of police requests for footage. Why should it be assumed you want to give that permission and make you have to go through the step of opting out? Like, why should the assumption not be that you don't want to share your camera information with anybody unless you specifically opt in? Holy shit, dude. Like, the Amazon stuff goes under the assumption that you want to share your surveillance information about what you're doing at your own home with the cops. How dumb is that? Good grief. Ring competitor Wise Labs, an honoree of the CES 2020 Innovation Awards, announced a data breach, great, just after Christmas, affecting 2.4 million customers. And widely used voice assistants made by Google, Amazon, and Apple all came under scrutiny in 2019 for data retention practices that allowed employees and contractors to listen to users' audio recordings, which is one reason there will never be one of those smart speakers in my home as long as I can prevent that from happening. I don't use that stuff on my phone. I don't use, any of the voice-activated Google stuff. I have a Galaxy phone. The Bixby thing, nope, that's off. I don't use that stuff on my computer. The Cortana thing, nope. Nope. I will not voluntarily have voice-activated things attached to the internet used by me, and hopefully my wife will follow suit. I don't think she uses any of that stuff. But holy guacamole. Like, can you imagine your voice speaker is in your house, like you've got one of those Alexa things or whatever, and one of you says, hey, what's the password for blah, blah, blah bank account? And the other one yells it back at you, and that gets picked up by the speaker, and some hacker's listening. They go, well, time to clear out their bank account. That's just nope. So much nope. So much nope. Let's see. There's been some pushback, at least on facial recognition and other surveillance technology from China. Hikvision and iFlyTech, two Chinese tech companies that showed off their artificial intelligence at CES 2019, now face U.S. export restrictions because the Trump administration says the technology has been used in the repression of China's Muslims. Okay, so good for saying you shouldn't use this technology to oppress a religious group, but it seems kind of hypocritical for a guy who will gladly travel ban Muslims to be all pissy about that now. I mean, I'm glad that he's taking steps to make a statement there, but he doesn't exactly say a whole bunch about Trump since he's obviously had issues with Muslims before. Let's see. China's not the only place where the lines are blurred between consumer technology and government surveillance. Watchful residents of American neighborhoods are increasingly encouraged by Ring to share their doorbell video footage with the police. And device makers are counting on consumers buying into ever more elaborate forms of computer vision and other AI technology to give them peace of mind. Because, once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Yeah. What else? Camera maker Arlo launched its first wireless floodlight camera with night vision, a siren, a two-way radio to converse with intruders, and ambient light sensor to automatically adjust its brightness. What's the point of that one? If a criminal's breaking into your house so you can have a conversation with him? How about a recording that screams at them that the police have been called? Like, why would I want to talk to these people? Another company, Sunflower Labs, is using CES to show off its, quote, home drone security, unquote, system. If trespassers step onto your lawn, a camera-equipped drone flies out from its resting place to take a look at them and streams the live video to your phone. Seems like a heck of an inefficient way to do that when a fixed mounted, motion sensitive camera system would already handle that need. Plus, somebody with a broom could swat the drone out of the air. But what do I know? Maybe people just like the cool factor. It's less intrusive to your neighbors than your run-of-the-mill doorbell camera because it's only looking down at your own property. Anybody who thinks that somebody won't find a way to hack those drones to make them pilotable by the owner is kidding themselves. Oh my god, this is just a surveillance clusterfuck. What else we got here? Venture capitalists said that tech companies are getting better at seeing themselves as custodians rather than owners of user data, but much more needs to be done. Gee, you think? We are probably the first or second inning for how privacy reshapes the consumer tech industry, or partners said from the research at Wing Venture Capital. Even as some U.S. policymakers seek to restrict or ban facial recognition, the conference is getting its attendees more accustomed to everyday uses of surveillance technology in commercial and security settings. Attendees at the Gadget Show can use their face to pick up their event badges for the first time. Nothing like trying to slowly indoctrinate you to the idea that having surveillance on you everywhere is okay. He dismissed privacy concerns, saying attendees have a choice. Yeah, I don't care about your privacy. You could just not use it. You're opting in. If you want to do it, you'll have an opportunity to do it. Except that if the system is set up so you got to use facial recognition to pick up your user badges, that means you have to opt out, not opt in. Cohen of EFF said she plans to skip the face scanners because she doesn't know who has control over the images they collect. She said there's only so much the consumers can do to guard against misuse. There's a risk of treating this as an individual decision, she said. That's not really right or fair to do to people. We need to fix the policies. I agree. This is something that needs to be handled at a policy level, not just at the individual level, because all you have to do is look around you to know that individuals often make some really dumbass decisions. So we got that going for us. So yikes. Surveillance out the yin-yang, welcome to 1984, because that looks like pretty much where we're heading here. The book, not the year. Oh, man. What a... I don't even have words for that. All right. U.S. strike on Iran could have consequences in North Korea. What a shock. When the United States demonstrates that it's willing to just assassinate world leaders even when you're not at war with them, one of the few countries with which we are still technically in a state of declared war has reason to be worried. Kim Jong-un is the leader of North Korea, which we had the Korean conflict, quote-unquote, with back in the 1900s. God, it feels so weird to say that. But technically that war isn't over. We just have a ceasefire, not an actual end to the war. So that's actually a country where you could make a wartime claim of justification for assassinating a world leader. And the United States has just demonstrated that it will gladly do that to a nation with which we're not even actually at war. So if I were Kim Jong-un, I'd be a little pissed off about that too. And by the way, both Russia and China are urging the UN to get on this country's ass about that drone strike. And, when Russia and China are looking at you going, dude, that's fucked up, you really did something wrong. When like, communist China is like, dude, that you pooched it. That's not okay. Wow. Ugh. What else we got going on here? Yeah, here we go. Here's an interesting one. Trump to reward party swapper Van Drew with New Jersey rally. The House of Representatives member Jeff Van Drew, formerly a Democrat, now a traitor to the party and the American people, because he switched to being a Republican, has now got Trump's big thumbs up and is going to hold a rally for him, because screw that guy. He basically said, I don't agree with the impeachment, and rather than just voting no, he actually changed parties, which led to his entire staff pretty much quitting overnight, going, screw you, dude, we're Democrats here, and if you're going to claim you're Republican, go find some new frickin' people. That's just crazy. Just crazy. And here's the thing. This guy sounds like he was a plant. Van Drew said at the time he believed the GOP was a, quote, better fit and promised Trump his, quote, undying support. That is about as un-American a statement as you can get. A president should not have undying support from anybody. They should have support when they're doing the right things and should be condemned when they're doing the wrong things, period. It doesn't matter what party they're from. If a president's doing the wrong stuff, they should be condemned. Anybody who says they're giving undying support is pledging the kind of loyalty demanded by a Stalin or a Hitler. Crazy. Yep. What a big shock. This comes on the heels of him discovering that the local Democrats in New Jersey wanted to back someone else in the primary. So he basically jumped ship because he knew he was such a bad fit for the Democrats that they weren't going to back him anymore. Like, he had screwed up so royally that the Democrats couldn't back him. So, great. Treason within the ranks. But what can you do? What can you do? All right, what else we got going on here? Artist dies. Impossible Foods unveils pork and sausage. Black. I know that if you're a vegan and you want to have meat-flavored stuff, that those products are going to exist for you. But I gotta say, artificial meat sounds really creepy to me. And I know that you shouldn't just arbitrarily say, no, that's horrible without trying it. But I don't think I am ever going to try eating a fake sausage. That just scares me. Let's see. What do we got here? Pentagon rejects Trump threat to hit Iranian cultural sites. Good. Whew. Harvey Weinstein getting charged with his sex crimes in L.A. on the eve of the trial in New York. Man, how many people do you have to abuse to have that happen to you? I hope he gets what's coming to him, too. Oof. Alright, so, whoops. My dog is trying to get my attention. Off to CNN. We already talked about that story. We already talked about that story. We already talked about the disgusting bedbug story. If you weren't here for that one, good. It was gross. Somebody let loose bedbugs in a Walmart, and the whole store is going to be like contaminated and infested before long. God. Yep, we already saw the Boy Scouts of America thing, where he talked about the kids being shot for throwing snowballs at cars. So, yeah. Alright, so while I'm looking at other headlines here, for anybody who's hanging around and watching the stream at the moment, if you have any topics you'd like me to tackle, let me know, and we can see what's going on with them. Because we're running low on news to talk about, and I hadn't really planned like an economy project tonight. So we'll have to see what else is going on here. Alright. The Golden Globes happened recently, and people are going nuts over Jason Momoa's arms. Like, how petty are we that that's a newsworthy subject? I don't even. Okay. Wheel falls off plane during takeoff. That headline tells you everything you need to know about what a horrible thing that is. Whew. Alright, so no new suggestions. We've been at this for about an hour now. I may call this an early stream tonight and wrap it up. But in the meantime, thanks to those who came by tonight. I'll be back again on Wednesday, and I'll probably put together more of a detailed show for after the news portion of the broadcast. But in the meantime, thanks for coming by, and I will see you again in 2 days. Have a wonderful night.